afternoon, and welcome to episode 2 of the Power Half Hour Unstoppable Business Owner. And today we have the amazing Carol Hink. Carol, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, Dorothy.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm jealous. She's in California, sunny California, and I'm stuck here in a snowstorm in Ontario, Canada. So,
I wish I
yay.
could pack it up and send you some sun.
Oh, I would take it. I get around this point the end of February, it's like winter blues so bad. It's like I need to get into some sun, but you know, that's beside the point here. Hello, Emily. Welcome. So tell our amazing viewers just what it is that you do.
Well, I help founders of startups attract and retain talent by creating a culture of well being and health.
Awesome. And what made you decide to go into that?
Well, that's an interesting story, but it comes from the heart. It comes from my own experience, and when I this summer I was laid off from a job, and I was also going through burnout. So I was mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually just drained, and I had horrible insomnia. I gained so much weight. I had no energy that I could do things to help myself. So the layoff was, scary, but also probably the gift, a big gift, a blessing,
Yeah.
because it gave me the time to focus on my well-being and figure out, okay, well, before I can figure out what's next for my life, I have to take care of me.
Mhm.
And so get back my sleep, get back to a healthy routine that helps me. And through that process, and I started, to be honest, I started job searching, as well. And through that process, though, I kept having this nudging feeling and this idea of it's a shame that it has to come to this for a lot of organizations and a lot of employees. And it just kept like organically growing in my head, and this idea just kept blossoming of, God, wouldn't it be awesome if I could be part of the solution, to help the employees, to help the organizations. And because this is a solvable problem. It's not like it's world hunger. I mean, this is absolutely something we can solve now.
Mhm.
And so it took me a couple of months of reflecting and diving in my own mind to figure out, God, why not? Why not do this? And it just felt so right. It felt with every fiber in my being that this is absolutely what I'm supposed to be doing, what my life purpose is, actually, if I finally found it late in life. Better late than never. um,
Hey, I'm 45 and just stepping into the what I'm my purpose and my calling is, so I get it.
I think we need those years to discern, to be able to have that experience helps, right? And
Right,
what you don't want, or what doesn't work, and what works and what doesn't. And
right.
so that experience just of going through that myself, I was like, well, how can I help others? Well, by being part of a solution and creating a business around that. And and the it was scary, though, to start out that way. And one of the other things that was I had to overcome in a big way was the big fear and the imposter syndrome. Dun dun dun. Right.
I think we all get that, no matter where we are at. And like I've been talking to some seasoned
Dorothy, I don't know if it's me, but you're coming up frozen on my screen, but it could be
in
me. Okay.
one of those things that I don't think it ever goes away, but we just learn to deal with it. And as long as it doesn't, as long as you're the type of person that keeps going forward with that, because I mean, there are a lot of people still get that. Like I was listening to, I forget her name. Her last name, I think it's Bronson, she actually coaches Hollywood movie stars, and she gets imposter syndrome and has been doing it for over 30 years. And I'm just like, how freaking cool is that, to know
Yeah.
for somebody who's been in the industry training Hollywood movie stars and she still gets imposter syndrome. So,
Yep.
thanks, Emily, and hello, Lucy. Yes, 2 live shows. What can I say? One wasn't enough, and I'm finding, like, as I'm networking, that there's a lot of amazing business owners, and Carol is one of them. I just happened to meet Carol, and so I thought, what better way to showcase business owners? Because there is, I don't think they get enough appreciation. I mean, and not only that, there's so many amazing people out there and my network is different than everybody else's network. And the fact of the matter is that she's in California and I'm in Canada, and it's so amazing that we can connect,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yep.
that's why I decided for the second show. So thanks, Emily, for asking that question. But getting it off me, and now back to our amazing guest. What would you say are the 3 things that you've had to overcome since starting your business?
Well, going back to that fear and imposter syndrome, that's a big one. And but what helped me go through that is 2 different things. There's a lot, but like if I go to narrow it down and say, okay, in a nutshell, one was jumping in to LinkedIn and saying, one day I just posted, and then I did a video and I said, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm about. This is what I'm going to do. And I was shaking before I was doing that. And I was shaking after, because it was like coming out of the closet saying to the world, I'm doing this. Well, that means you can't, no backseats, right? No backseats at that point. So you've got to do it, or, deal with the consequences of not doing it. So it was still like everything, that moment I'll never forget, when I did that just this fall. And so I said, okay, but the response that I got was so encouraging, Dorothy. It was, messages and, texts, and everybody going, this is great. I'm so happy for you. This, and that just like fueled me, that encouragement. And then other people even reached out that I haven't seen in like 20 years. And they're like, oh, let's talk. Maybe we can collaborate. So all that encouragement told me I'm on the right path, and that helped me and not think of it, okay, well, just one step at a time. And I think I shared with you and I talked about this Will Smith new book, his new memoir. And I did a post about this because it hit me so hard, about the story about his dad who, tore down this wall in his business and made Will Smith and his brother every day after school work for hours, mixing the cement, and laying a brick. And he taught them how to lay the brick perfectly and said, that's all you're supposed to do. And he and his brother are like, okay, the man's lost his mind. What are we doing this for? And then at the end, they had, like 18 months later, they had this wall. And his dad turned to him and he said, now, don't you ever tell me that you can't build something. Oh. And it was like, I get chills now saying it. And it was all about, just building, putting that one brick down at a time, not looking at, oh my God, I got to build this wall. How the heck am I going to do that? Because that's overwhelming. And that's what I was doing in the beginning too, thinking I've got to build this business and I got to solve everything. And no, just build, put one perfect brick down, then the next, then come back the next day, show up and do it again. So it was just, we were on our road trip home for the holidays when we were listening to the audiobook, and Will Smith was actually talking, doing the book. And it was just like, wow, that was like a brick hitting me in a good way. That was like, that's what I needed to hear, And so, the times that I feel that, I just think, okay, one more brick. That's it.
I love that. And what are some things that you've helped your clients overcome?
Well, I think that's part of it too. Like there is so much fear about the unknown if they're not comfortable about stepping out and embracing that soft skill side, that empathy, that communication, because a lot of the startup founders may come from an engineer background, or maybe IT, and not usually, but doesn't have to be, coming from like the marketing side where all of us are very touchy feely. So they need help, and it's not easy to ask for help. It's kind of, in our society, it's sometimes looked at as like, you're supposed to be tougher than that and figure it out yourself. So what I've found is really just getting on that human level, and there's three ways that I like to help them, and one of them is, how do you get, first of all, like a startup organization to believe that they need, or figure out how to get a workplace that has this well-being culture, right? Well, it has to come from the top down, number one, but you can't forget it also has to be employee-led. So, but if the top does not buy in and doesn't commit or believe that it has the value, then all the work in the world you do won't make a difference. So it starts with the founder. And so I help founders start thinking about how they can attract and retain talent, and also bigger their brands, grow their brand by being a thought leader, by growing their LinkedIn presence. So I can help them create, I create the LinkedIn profiles that they usually are too busy to even bother with, and help them to figure out who their authentic voice is and start sharing that. And then I also help with content and with the communication aspects. So I'm their advisor, I'm their right hand. And once we start building this following, meaning a community, not more than a following, a community on LinkedIn for them, then people will look at them and they see them as, hey, that person cares. That person, hey, that leader has a vision. This is where they are. This is where they want to go. That's exciting. I want to follow that person, meaning actually follow the leader, because most of us already know through the pandemic with the I call it the great realization time, or the great reshuffle, is that people tend to leave jobs because of managers or leaders, right? So if you have a leader that has a vision, that's excited and really cares about their people, then it's going to attract the talent that you want and keep the talent you want. It's also going to attract investors. It's going to attract the investors that startup needs too, because they see that they are investing in all different ways and growing something that the organization is going to be more valuable for.
Yeah, there's a couple different things that you've said that have struck me. And number one, getting the owner to buy in to certain things, and that is key. And a lot of different people that I've worked for in the past and things like that, they, their mentality has been, just do it my way, and my way is the only way to do it, and if you don't like it, there's the door. And unfortunately, that has created a lot of animosity within the workplace, and it has actually shrunk those people that are shining stars, and just shrunk them down to nothing. And that's why they leave, folks. To be quite honest, that's why they leave. If we understand as employees that the business is yours, but for people, especially like me, who I take ownership in what I do, and take ownership as, how would I treat this if it was my company? That's how I see it when I work somewhere. So if the owner doesn't give a shit, why should I? Is basically when you get to year 5, year 6, year 7, and you just have been suppressed for so long, that's why we leave. It isn't the fact, like, money's great and everything, but you know what? I would even rather have more time off. I've even said, don't give me a raise. Just give me an extra week's vacation. And they say no. I'm like, seriously? Because the raise, you would have spent more in giving me the raise than that vacation. And now with time work balance, like, that's what we crave. That's what we honestly want as employees, is more of that work-life balance. And employers are not giving it. So, it's for people like you that are going in and saying, hey, these are what people want. If you keep your employee happy, there is no way in hell that they're going to leave. And they are going to be your biggest cheerleader. And they're going to be out there giving you free advertising.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're the brand ambassadors. They're your,
Exactly.
they're the first line of defense, I call it, or offense, and not utilizing that is the worst thing you can do. Throw all the money you want at advertising. It's not going to do a thing. And the what you said just reminded me too. It hit the nail on the head. And everybody wants to feel that they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
And that's like referring to what you said about ownership. A lot of us, I think there's many of us that feel that way. You just don't look at it as a job. You feel like, hey, this is, something I value, and I want to do a good job, and I want this company to succeed. And when you're shut down and you can contribute and you're not part of it, and you don't even know what the vision is, maybe, or it's just so unclear, it's so muddy, or you feel you don't even have a say, then it really is. That's what we're seeing. I think people are just like, okay, well then why am I showing up every day? There's got to be something else I could be doing. Yeah. And it's just not, life's too short for that. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And then the other side is like, once you get the founder, is you have to make sure that you also bring in the employees then. So it just has to start there and have that. He has to create, or she, the founder, has to create that psychological space, that safety space, so that the employees feel that they can talk about it. Because the other thing that I offer is, when going into organizations and working in a collaborative process to define what is the culture that fits this organization, that's authentic to it, that is positive, that is engaging, and most of all is felt by all. It's because you could go in and say, okay, here are the 10 things, and go to every organization and say, here, put this in. But every organization's different, and for them to come up with that themselves, and then to have everybody agree upon, okay, this is what we agreed. These are the do's and don'ts of how we operate a business, and what's our North Star. Now talk about your brand ambassador feeling they're part of something bigger, and that they're excited, and that they had a big part in creating this. So that right there, is just so powerful, because now let's say you bring in new employees. These employees just help create something. They're going to be happy to share it. They're going to be wanting to bring that new employee in here and encourage them and let them feel safe so that they can blossom. So it's such a powerful experience to be able to do that. And that's why I've been focusing on startups that are mainly, let's say, 50 employees or less. So very, very young startups, because my feeling is that, that's where I can make the most change, because they're so young, and they're right now, usually they're focused on product, they might even outsource their HR, and they don't really have any type of person in there to do that kind of soft skill work. And now, that's where, if we get the culture set and everybody's bought in, when they scale up, because sometimes they scale up so quick. So when they scale up, now it can scale up with them, and take them to the next level. And
exactly, and that's important, because if there's a lot of employee retention, you have to train these employees. So the more employees you train, that's more dollars out of your pocket. It's cheaper to actually keep them, so keep them happy.
Yeah.
That just isn't in divorce, people. It's cheaper to keep her. It's cheap. I've heard that saying. I heard that saying from my brother. Honest to God, I heard that saying from my brother, who is twice divorced. But it's and that's, I don't know, it stuck with me, and it's cheaper to keep an employee and keep the employee happy, and then constantly training and constantly, and I don't know about you, but with this pandemic, the great resignation is what I keep hearing everywhere. how do you think that that is for your favor with what you're doing right now? Because you see all these people that are wanting to change jobs because we're tired of the bullshit. Where this pandemic
Mhm.
has taught us that life is too short. Let's live now. We don't want to
Right.
live in the future. We want to live now. I heard the other day a statistic that we work till we're 67 and the life expectancy is 78, I think, or something like that. So we have a window of 10 to 11 years to enjoy our lives. We want to enjoy it now.
Yeah.
We want to work, but we want to enjoy life. Do you think that part of that would be part of the culture that you're bringing into these startups?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, and to go back to what you said, there was a statistic that said to replace an employee is 3 times their salary. So think about that. So if you bring in someone for 100,000, then that's going to cost you 300,000 probably to replace that employee. And then like time and all of that. So it's really, really, if you want to go dollars and cents, I think that can hit some of the founders too to think about that aspect of it. But yeah, the Great Resignation is, I think, the only reason that this is even possible at this time, to be honest, because um, I, when I look back, I realize I've always been on this bandwagon through my whole life, and everywhere I went, even in the military. Which you really are not. You're just supposed to follow orders and that's it. And then here's Carol going, couldn't we do something better for for the team? And couldn't we do, I didn't realize it then at, 19, I'm sitting here trying to, do what I do. But everywhere I went, I was like, how can we make it better? How can we make people happy? Thanks,
Nader says that's
Nader.
true. Exactly.
Love it. Um, and so it was, so I look back every place I went, I just kept doing that. But at the time, every single time up until the pandemic, nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody really cared. I shouldn't say nobody, very few, right? I think the very uh, empathetic people-led companies that already wired that way, they got it. So they stood out from a lot of people, but the majority of companies were, very black and white, dollars, no dollars. So I kept beating my head against the wall and trying to effect change where it wasn't wanted really yet. We're making good money. We're fine. I don't care. People can come and go, and that's fine. And so if it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't think that I'd be doing what I'm doing. And I just saw this opportunity because of so many people suffering. And so, and organizations just, throwing up their hands too, saying, I don't know what to do. It's really brought everything to the forefront. And it's our time now to create collectively as human beings, Workplace 2.0. I think if we don't act now, then I think there's a good opportunity we're going to miss the boat. And, when the pandemic calms down even further and people are back to normal, then I think it'll be harder to go back. So if you want to affect change, we have to jump now and start making that. But I think it'd be very hard to go completely back to a non-hybrid options and, all these changes that people have made. But so in a way, the pandemic has been a blessing for all of us to kind of do one of these, right?
Yeah.
To kind of
Well,
say.
and I said that right actually after the initial shock. and it's taken, my dad's passing for me to realize a lot
Sorry
of
about
different
that.
things about this pandemic, right? It's just like
Mm-hmm.
this is not all bad. I mean, other than the lockdowns and isolation, that is, I think, wearing on us more than anything, and
Yeah.
especially here in Canada. And if we think we have it bad here in Canada, you should actually live in Hong Kong, where my aunt lives, where it's zero tolerance for a case. If somebody has COVID, you're locked at Penny Bay for 21 days. You cannot get out, and you're paying for your time there.
Mm.
So if we think we have it bad, Hong Kong
Yeah.
has it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And they're putting notices on buildings, on apartment buildings saying, hey, and here's your COVID test. If you test positive, you're out of there. You have to have childcare set up, and you have to have care for your dog set up, because your dog's not going with you, and neither's the rest of your family. And
Wow.
it's so that went off a little bit on the tangent, but you
But it
know,
affects us as humans. You're absolutely right.
right.
Yeah.
Like, and my aunt's living there and living proof, and she sees
Mm,
these white coats, and she sees these people that are being tested on the street, and things like that. And I'm surprised that she hasn't lost her mind yet, because I mean, there's been moments in this pandemic that I've lost my mind because I felt the isolation, and
yes.
then with the cold weather, like we can't even. Well, you could, I suppose, go for a walk right now, but I wouldn't want to in this snowstorm. But the good parts of the pandemic are, now is a time that everything, there's a lot of free content on everywhere you go. So
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't thought of changing or at least brushing up your skills, now is the time to do it, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Or learn a new skill. There is no reason why after this pandemic you don't have a new skill. It's all there
Absolutely.
at your fingertips, right at your fingertips. And it's just like people are like bitching, moaning, and complaining, and I'm like, why have you not used this to your advantage? You know, and
Mm-hmm.
not a lot. Not, I don't know. To me, maybe I'm just weird, but
No,
I've
no.
used this. I've used this time to transition, to learn, to write a book, to have 2 live shows. This would never have been possible if, like, I would have still
Hmm.
been not even thinking of any of this if the pandemic hit. But so there is some great things, and I think the Great Resignation is going to be in everybody's favor. It's going to get employees or employers thinking, "Hey, we've got to change, and we got to change now."
Mm-hmm.
And employees thinking, okay, I'm not going to stay stuck where I'm not wanted. I feel like crap. I'm under a lot of pressure, under a lot of stress, and forget it, because there's other jobs. Like, you could go up. Everybody in the world is hiring right now.
Mm-hmm.
So now is the time to make everything magically happen in your lives.
Yes.
So,
And it's like what I've been thinking too is going along the lines of we were talking about, like, getting the founders on board and getting the employees on board. And what I'm uh, going to be doing is I want to really create a movement. Yes, I want to help organizations, and I'll keep doing that. But for all the people out there that are feeling so frustrated and about the workplace, and don't know exactly which direction to go to, I would love to, again, think about the all the brain power, right? The collective knowledge and will, and create a movement around this. And I'm thinking, I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna call it, or what. This is just something that's been mulling also in my head. And so, but I want to create something that we can all come together and we collectively start forming. What does workplace, 2.0 look like? So not just per organization, but in general, and start building, instead of being alone and isolated and feeling frustrated, that they have a place that they can go to. What form that takes yet, I'm not sure, whether that's Slack or something to kind of get people together, but then harness that wisdom from everybody and start building what this vision looks like. Because this is so much bigger. This is worldwide. This isn't just one state, one country. This is every place that's been affected. So that's something that's been mulling around that I'm excited about. I think that would be another nice offshoot that I didn't see coming. Something that there's a lot of things that keep coming up of what else I could do to serve, just like what you're doing, and the writing the book and creating these live events, which has been amazing. And it's we need more of that. We need more positive voices that are willing to do something to make a change. And sometimes people just don't know where to go or what to do. So
I
that's
love
where
that.
we can
I
just
love that.
everybody can step up and help, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's funny because that's part of my Overcomer Academy idea as well, is incorporating some of that. So I've been looking for people to help me with that. So maybe that's something we can talk off air
Ooh,
one day.
yeah.
And make this a reality instead of someday. This is going to be
Mm-hmm.
in existence. Let's make it now. Um, because I believe, it's time that we all come together. And I've said 2022 is the year of collaboration. And everybody I talk to is like, yep, yep, yep. Let's, how can I help
Mm-hmm.
you? And that's the great thing about this. We're all in the same position. Um,
Ah, thank you, Nader.
We're all in the same position and we're all here to help each other. So I know we're at the half hour here. So Carol, is there any last words that you have for our guests? Any last tips or anything like that that you want to leave our guests with today?
I think is to be, don't be afraid to reach out, because when I was at the point of do I build the business, and then when I decide okay, and then fear crept in. Um, the biggest thing that helped me was just reaching out to people, and that changed everything, because especially now, like you said, we're so isolated. We feel isolated because I've been still working from home for a couple of years now too. So it was the most transformative step I took, and being careful about who you reach out to, right? Being specific and intentional about people that have been on that journey before you, that can speak from the heart, really make a difference, and then it empowers you to do the same for someone else and put you in that.
Absolutely. And when you just one last thing, I would,
Mm-hmm.
when you think of, you're in your head, that's what I call it. When you're in your head, and like you said, you're having those moments and you're having that imposter syndrome, immediately reach out and do something for somebody else, because it gets you right out of that. It gets you
Yes,
right out of that space. And not only is it helping somebody else out, but it's helping you out because you just got your mind off your problems, right? And,
absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. And that's like so perfect, because like that's what I did in the summer when I was the most lost, and before I figured out what I wanted to do. And I thought it was crazy. Here I am looking, for a job or trying to decide what I'm going to do. And I started volunteering with an organization I've been following for a while, and that's shift.org. And they help current military and past military members um, kind of invigorate themselves. So either if they want to transition within the organization, the military, or if they are transitioning out, and they have programs set up, to help all of them. And so I started volunteering, helping them. Their cohorts would get to a certain point in the program and they would need mock interviewers. And so here I was, and I thought, this is the irony is interesting, but it was the most wonderful experience for, to be able to do that. So.
that's awesome. Remind me when we're done here. I need you to connect you with somebody. You just triggered me huge on somebody
Okay.
you need to connect with.
Okay.
So, and that's what I like about it. That's why I build
Yeah.
a network, because I build this network so I can help everybody out. And, it's like I'm a cruise ship director. You need to talk to this
All
person
right,
and that
Julie.
person.
Julie McCoy.
Hey, I'll take it.
A love boat. Yeah.
Love to be on a cruise ship right now. Hey, Russ, thanks for joining us. So I knew in the show notes that I put, they can connect with you on LinkedIn, but is there any other place that you would like them to connect with them to connect with you?
Well, we connect anywhere. I'm on Twitter a lot as well, but I think LinkedIn is probably the best place right now, since this is all new and evolving, because I live on it. I pretty much live on it. So if you want me, you can get me pretty much almost 24/7 now. I've learned my well-being rules now. My lessons. So I do have boundaries, but yeah, I think LinkedIn is probably the safest one right now.
Okay, perfect. Well, folks, this has been another amazing episode, and I'm so glad that you were able to join us. And I'm super ecstatic to bring to you and introduce you to Miss Carol Hink. And so definitely look out for her, because she is definitely taking the startups by storm here and helping them create a culture. A winning culture right from the beginning, so that their employees stick with them, and it's a win-win situation everywhere. So with that,
Mm-hmm.
folks, have an amazing rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you next week here with Daniel Evans next week. So
Thank you,
have a great
Dorothy.
day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.